Welcome, everyone, to Beauty Talent Talk. Our mission is to inspire, share expert insights, and empower personal and professional growth. I'm Debbie Johnson, your host. So today, our topic is reimagining and pivoting beauty careers. And our guest today is Michelle Ryan. She's a professor of luxury and brand management at SCAD. She's also marketing executive that spans across L'Oreal, Henkel, and has her own consulting firm. Michelle, thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you, Debbie. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And Kirsty, our moderator.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I am here. We are very lucky to have Michelle here. So if you have any questions kind of about empowering yourself or moving forward in your career, please do pop them in the chat and I will bring them up to Michelle and Debbie as we go through.
Wonderful. So setting the stage for this discussion, Michelle, tell me about SCAD and their dedicated programs to the beauty industry.
Okay, sure. Well, SCAD is the Savannah College of Art and Design, and it was actually created in the 1970s by our current president, Paula Wallace, and it's known as the University for Creative Careers. So usually when people hear of SCAD, they think of art and film and fashion and design, but we also have a multidisciplinary curriculum where we combine creative with business. And so I teach in the DeSole School of Business Innovation, and I teach in the Luxury and Brand Management graduate program there. We actually have 3 graduate programs in the business school. We have Luxury and Brand Management, we have creative business leadership, and we have design management. So in the luxury brand management program, it was specifically created to really create professionals to have experience to enter the luxury industry, whether it's luxury beauty, luxury fashion, luxury hospitality, luxury fragrance. So the whole curriculum is pretty holistic in terms of teaching students everything from consumer behavior, marketing, all the way through supply chain and finance and leadership and ethics, but all with a luxury lens. And the interesting thing about SCAD and this program is that all of the professors are industry practitioners. So we have all worked in the industry. We all bring years of real world experience. We've all launched brands and run global companies, and we know the industry very well. And we bring that into the classroom so that the classes are very much, we're not just teaching them theory. They're very immersive, very experiential, and we're teaching them what it really is like to lead organizations and in this beauty and luxury industry.
There's so much value with that. And for someone who's listening, who's maybe 5 years into their career or 15 plus years, thinking, is this really for me? Do I go back to school? What would you describe as the typical SCAD student, and what type of programs can professionals invest in today to continue to evolve?
Well, we really find that with our graduate students, many of them are doing just that, right? We don't have that many that come directly from undergraduate into the graduate program. Most of our students have been working for a number of years, and they decide at a certain point that they either want to expand their overall skill set. So maybe they're working in a particular function and they want to become more holistic. They want to have more general management skills or more overall leadership skills. So they come into our program to learn that. Or they might have, let's say, a creative background. We do have a lot of students who come in from the fashion industry or from the retail industry. So they have more of a creative background, but they want to learn the business side, right? So they want to come in, they want to understand finance. They want to understand how to run a business or how to create a business. So they come to our program to kind of round out those skills. We also have students that come in and they might want to change careers, right? I had a student last year who she had actually worked for a decade with a European retailer, but it was more on the mass side or the food side of the industry. And she wanted to get into the luxury industry, but from a retail perspective. So she came back to SCAD with 10 years of excellent experience, but really to take that experience and learn about how she could apply that to a more luxury oriented organization. So we do see students come in for all different reasons. And they're really, I think, at the point in their career where they know that their technical skills are not enough, right? So they're asking those bigger questions like, how do I become a better leader? How do I look at strategy? How do I prepare for this industry that is changing so rapidly with AI and with consumers changing so quickly? So they're really looking at it as, I want to expand my overall skill set. And then we also have many students. We offer the program at SCAD both on ground in Savannah and on our Atlanta campus, but we also have an online program. So you can do the exact same curriculum while you continue to work. So you can actually be, working, you can come to the program. It's the exact same curriculum, but we've made it more flexible for working professionals. So you work with, your team, you work on the same assignments, but we've made it more flexible so that you can kind of do it at your own pace and then still work and still, meet your career obligations while you're taking the program. And we find that students really appreciate that curriculum because of its flexibility and because they can, take it while they're in the industry. And they're also learning from all of these industry professionals. We have, not only are the professors all industry professionals, but we have many mentors who are executives in residence. And they are from companies and currently working in luxury companies like LVMH or Hermes or L'Oreal or Tom Ford. So those executives come to our campus and come to our classes on a regular basis. They're looking at the students' portfolios, they're sitting in on their final presentations, and they're coaching them and giving that real world advice. And I think that's what our students really find is unique about our program.
And Michelle, you coming from a marketing background, you know firsthand how much marketing has evolved and continues to do so. Where would you say are some of the areas that brand marketers can invest in themselves at SCAD to really continue to stay ahead of all the changes that are happening within marketing and brand marketing, digital?
Well, I think what we try to do at SCAD is connect the dots for them. So it's not just, we teach them the basics of marketing, the basics of consumer behavior, but we try to connect the dots. How do all of those marketing functions have to interrelate with the other cross-disciplinary functions of an organization? So one of the important things that we teach is, supply chain, for example, or global distribution, for example. So if you're trying to round out your skills and really operate in a very complex environment and you're in marketing, you need to understand supply chain. We all need to understand supply chain after, what we lived through in 2020. Yeah. So one of the programs that we've created for our program is global supply chain management. And we also have global distribution management. So we teach students in those classes, even if you are a marketer or kind of a general manager, why it's important that you understand the nitty gritty of supply chain and how to create, let's say, a global retail distribution store. So I taught the supply chain class last quarter, and it's really an amazing class because we teach students how to, number one, they have to create a company in the class. So they work in teams, they create a company, they come up with the name. We usually have them do it in the fashion industry or the beauty industry. And they create the mission, the vision, the values for the company. And then they create the sustainability strategy. So they actually write the sustainability strategy for the company. And then that is used to guide all of the supply chain issues the supply chain choices that they make. So they have to choose, are they going to manufacture their product in a certain country? They have to research that country. They have to research the vendors in that country. And they have to prepare everything from soup to nuts of how to produce a product and then import that into the United States. And then once it's here, how do they get that to the end consumer? And they prepare that overall project and presentation, and then they present it to supply chain executives who are actually working in the industry and advising them to get that, that advice and approval. And I've had students come out of that class saying, I never thought I would enjoy supply chain, but it's been really interesting because you're solving problems, right? And you're seeing how everything comes together. And then in our global distribution class, that's an amazing class if you're really interested in retail or expanding your commercialization skills. So in that class, students actually have to create a retail expansion plan for a luxury brand going into an international market. And so they pick a luxury brand, they research where does that brand have brick and mortar stores and a retail presence, and then they decide where they want to expand that brand into an international market. They do a location analysis, a geographic analysis, and they design the store using some amazing AI tools. They design the customer experience, and then they do the full financial plan for expanding that store. And again, they have to present that back to industry executives and get the feedback and get the, the guidance on how well that plan would work in the real world. So those are great skills that our students are learning to complement, let's say, their general management or their marketing skills. And it really helps prepare them for today's organizations, and not just for that CEO level, but how to connect all of the, the functions within this ever-changing industry that we're working in.
I think there's so much value there, especially when you have candidates that are maybe working for a bigger company where they're very siloed. You don't get the exposure, and there's so many layers that you're not getting that exposure anytime soon. So to be able to have that, and also speak to it when you go for an interview. Maybe I haven't done and owned it, but I work on that project, and so much value. And I think it also just really highlights that growth mindset of someone that's investing in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the statistics that I always find amazing to me, and amazing, not in a good way, is that 80% of hiring managers have never been formally trained in interviewing and some in coaching. And I see this very often as an outside party working through the interview process and getting feedback. You have a dedicated leadership and ethics class. Tell me about the class. And I think it's critical. I think that the more hiring managers invest in themselves, the more successful outcomes for everybody involved we'll see. But I'd love to understand more about that class and what that practice could look like for someone thinking about investing there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually a new class for us. I think we created it about 2 years ago, and it's become one of our most popular classes exactly because of, what you're saying. And for us, we believe that leadership is a skill, right? It's not a job title. So as you know, as a recruiter, most people get promoted because they're really good individual contributors, right? They're a really good marketer. They're a great finance person, a great salesperson, but then they're promoted and they're responsible for inspiring teams and figuring out complexity and navigating conflict. And no one's taught them how to do that, right? So for us, that's why leadership education matters. And all of our classes have that leadership component. We're trying to really immerse them into experiencing how to be a leader, not just reading about it in theory. So this class in particular, the leadership, ethics, and sustainability class, was designed specifically for luxury because within luxury, you have so many stakeholders, right? You have your board, you have your consumers, you have your NGOs, your suppliers, but you also are responsible for the planet, right? For all of the decisions that you're making are responsible now for what's happening in the earth. And leading a company like that means you need to understand these ethical decisions. So we created this program that teaches them about leadership as well as, how to be an authentic leader, how to, manage ethical decisions in business. So for example, how do you manage ethics in, if you have a recall situation in your company, how do you manage ethics with your advertising communication, with AI, or, let's say leaderships in fashion or ethic situations in fashion. We all overconsume a lot of fashion in this country. So how do those types of ethical decisions play into your leadership ability? And then we tie it in with sustainability, right? So they understand then how do they look at sustainability? How are they looking at those sustainability practices, and how do they use that to kind of maximize the brand equity and help the overall organization kind of really think future forward? So it's become one of our most popular classes, and it really tests, I think, a lot of the the questions that you're going to be faced with when you're running some of these companies.
I love that. And when you look at the students attending those classes, are you seeing first time or just early graduates? Are you seeing seasoned executives? Who's the general audience?
It's a combination of both. Yeah, it's a combination. Yeah, like I said, we have many students who have worked for many years and are fairly senior in their organizations. They might continue to be working and taking the classes, as they are still employed, or they have decided to come back and completely, make the 2-year investment where they're going to be doing the classes on ground and then moving back into the industry. So we see a combination of both. And I think that's what makes it so exciting, because it's the conversation that's happening in the classroom, right? And it's not just, the professor kind of teaching them, it's us bringing our industry experience, but then all of the experience of the students in the room, and they're bringing that as well. And then we have our mentors who are, coming in and talking to them about what's happening, and then evaluating kind of what their projects look like and what their work looks like. So it's a combination for us of both. And we definitely have that, more seasoned executives coming in with our CEW program next week.
And outside of just the learning from professor and everybody else in the group that they're combined with in these different projects, et cetera, but the value of the network. And we talked about alumni earlier today. Tell me about what's the value of an alumni from SCAD, and how can that play into future job opportunities and just continuous mentorship through these leaders?
Oh, it's amazing. I feel like we're at SCAD, we have this sorority kind of creative, creative business leaders, and we have all worked in so many industries. And we do have a lot of alum who, you come to these programs because you want to work in beauty or you want to work with a high-end luxury company. So it really is an amazing community of professionals and then alums who come back and really immerse themselves in helping students and helping them in the class. I mean, we have, and I'm interviewing him next week, Bob Chavez. He's the former president and general manager of Hermes North America. He's now the chairman, and he is our executive in residence. And he is so involved in what the students are doing. And he's also involved in helping them with their careers, right? So he's guiding them. He's looking at their projects. He's helping them figure out how can we leave here from SCAD and enter into one of these, broader luxury organizations. So our mentors and our professors really bring that kind of camaraderie and that network to the students. And then we see so much interaction with our students when they go out into the industry and then come back to SCAD. Everyone loves to come back to SCAD and to share because it's such an amazing place. So we'll see that actually next week. I'm interviewing 3 of our alums who have gone out from our programs and are now working at various beauty companies, some in social media, some in influence, some in traditional marketing. But we do try to keep them very connected back to the current, to the current curriculum and to the current students. And everything is changing so rapidly that, everything changes almost daily or weekly. So you need to have that pulse on what's happening in business and bring that back into the classroom.
Love that. And let's talk about AI. AI, hot topic. It's a topic that I think people are buying in more and more, and some continue to be very afraid that's going to take over their job. What type of classes is SCAD? And I know that you had said they've been kind of the forefront of AI, or how are they teaching students AI? And you said it perfectly, which I loved, is it's complementing their skill set. It's helping them, be a pioneer in AI instead of replacing them. Let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely becoming one of the most important leadership skills you can have for the next decade, right? Your comfort with AI and how you use it. In the luxury and brand management program, because there's a creative component to everything we do in luxury and brand management. So every class has some type of creative aspect to it. Our students are using AI, I'd say, in 2 ways. Number one, they're using it for creative, and they're very, very comfortable with it. So, for example, in our global distribution class, you have to create a store design. You have to create a store. Many of our students are using AI to create the store designs, and they're stunning. And they're using all types of AI tools, from the basics like, Chat GPT and Gemini, to more complicated ones like Perplexity or Adobe Firefly to create visuals. They're using it from a creative perspective to really create amazing pieces of work. So whether it's a store design, or I teach an advertising luxury class, and the students have to create an advertising campaign for a luxury organization. So in the typical world, right, you would spend months creating an advertising campaign, right? You'd brief your agency, you'd create the creative brief, they'd come back with some ideas, they'd do research, they'd come up with the storyboards. That would take months, right? Our students are learning how to do that in a very short period of time, and they're using a combination of, some use AI completely to create that, and it's amazing at what they can do very, very quickly. And then some students do a combination of actually shooting the assets. We actually have them shoot a film, and they're creating the video and the assets from the film, but they're using AI tools to make more assets or to make multiple iterations of those assets. And I know that in a lot of, beauty companies, I've talked to a lot of creative directors, and I think a lot of creative directors are still concerned with using AI for creative, right? Because they want the creative to be authentic and true to their brand and in the brand tone of voice. But there are so many advances now. And when you see what our students can do, I had students create an ad campaign for Diesel. Do you know Diesel, the Italian denim company? The students created this ad campaign for Diesel completely using AI. They didn't shoot anything. And they were able to create concepts, storyboards, iterate and change them, and then create the entire video and all of the digital and outdoor assets just using AI tools. And I swear Diesel would have used this campaign had they seen it, because it's very true to the brand. And then we have other teams who, we had another student group who shot a campaign for Aesop, which is a fragrance company by L'Oreal. And they used a combination of shooting live assets and then using the AI tools to create the finished product. Very, very true to the brand, though, very, very authentic. So I think some of the creative directors working in industry now we'll really be learning a lot from these new employees coming in who feel very, very comfortable using AI from a creative standpoint. And then on the other hand, how do you use AI to help you with your research, with writing your papers, with all of the stuff that we're all using AI for. So we're very candid with our students about what AI can and can't do, right? It can't replace that human connection. It can't replace, cultural nuances and that human emotion. So we try to be very honest with them about how they're using AI and how they should be using it to, let's say, do their research for a particular paper or to write a particular, project or paper. And often we tell them, I'm sure you would know as a hiring manager, if you're showing your portfolio to a hiring manager, they can detect AI language right away, right? They know you didn't write something, so they can see if it's written in AI. And you, as the interviewee, have to be able to speak to that. You have to be able to talk in your own voice. So be careful of how much AI you use to write those materials, right? You have to always temper it with, use it as a collaborator, but not just to create the entire piece for you. So we're very honest with our students and try to prepare them for what that hiring manager is going to look at within their portfolio. So, long answer, but I think we're using it in multiple ways. We're very comfortable from a creative standpoint, and then we're trying to use it more as a collaborator to help our students kind of, be comfortable in this changing industry that we're working in.
Yeah, I think it's such a huge topic. And just when I look at searches that I'm actively working on, AI, no one's looking for an AI expert, but they want professionals, whether you're an executive or you're a director level, that has exposure to AI, that you're playing with the tools, that you're seeing where you're
comfortable with that, yeah.
Activity, that you're at the forefront. So that is becoming an important part of the hiring process. And so it's definitely an area that professionals have to make the investment in. And then exciting about the CEW partnership. So tell us a little bit about the upcoming partnership with CEW and how that can, impact the broader beauty industry for those individuals with a growth mindset.
Yeah, we're super excited. It's an incredibly, exciting partnership for us because, it really brings together these two organizations that have been committed to developing the next generation of beauty leaders. So, CEW, and they have been for many, many years on the forefront of connecting and educating and bringing people together within the beauty industry. And then you have SCAD that has this great curriculum and the innovation and the inspiration, and it's set in beautiful, historic Savannah. So we're bringing the two groups together, and we really try to create the fellowship and the program so that it's rooted in the attributes that the beauty industry likes, like emotion and innovation and human connection. So we didn't want it to be just another executive leadership conference where you're sitting in a ballroom and you're watching presentation after presentation. Our experience is going to be very, very immersive. It's going to be very luxurious. We're going to be sharing all of the luxury benefits of SCAD and teaching the executives really what luxury means today. And we're also going to give them space. So space to be very creative and to explore their own creativity, and also space to learn about their own leadership style. And we're going to be giving them tips on how to kind of become a leader in today's rapidly changing organizations and rapidly changing industry. So we're really excited. We have everyone coming down next week to kick it off. And we hope that it's the beginning of something that we will continue on a regular basis. And we're hoping that it's more than just networking. We really want this to be fellowship. So we really want this to be learning that continues, right? And a community that's built to work together and help one another and continue to learn, because, we're going to need leaders in the beauty industry and the luxury industry who want to keep on learning, given how rapidly everything is changing. So we start off next week. It's Tuesday through Friday, and we've worked very closely with Alana, the president of CEW, and also our dean, Melanie Moore, who has helped develop this program, and it's amazing. She's worked in the beauty industry for many years with Estee Lauder. So I think with the two of them coming together really to create this special program for this special industry that we're working in, we're really excited. And it's a great way just to, to kind of step outside of the business world and immerse yourself in a different way of thinking, and to really, re-energize your creative skills. And look at different ways to evaluate what your leadership style is. For example, we're taking them, I don't want to give too much away, but we're taking them to one of our equestrian centers at SCAD, and we're going to be teaching them about how athletes perform and how coaches teach athletes, and how you can take that same concept to your leadership style and your team management style back in your organization. So we're really excited, and we hope that this is something that will continue with CEW going forward.
That sounds very exciting. I am looking forward to hearing and debriefing with you in a couple weeks and hearing all about it. So it sounds like a great, fantastic program for future growth for professionals. So I want to jump right into featuring our next episode, just talking about what we'll be having for our subject and our topic. So next month, the discussion is going to be on prime position, building your beauty career in the age of Amazon, featuring Brittany Meeks, who's the VP of Amazon and Pure Play at Olaplex. Now, as we all know, Amazon has become a growing force in the beauty business, overtook Walmart and become the single largest beauty retailer in sales. And I've been working a lot of Amazon searches, and I see some of the gaps in the business, but I also see just where it is such a huge machine that no matter if you're brand management, you're in finance, you're in operations, you're going to have to be exposed and understanding how Amazon is playing into a business model. So in speaking with Brittany, we're really going to focus on how cross-functional partners can be exposed to Amazon, understanding how you can evolve to support that business. And it's also causing a lot of complexity. When you're an omni-channel and you have multiple retailers, there's a lot of complexity in supporting Amazon, but still being a good partner to the other retailers. And we're also going to dive into the topic of channel harmony, which is also, I think, a very relevant topic of a lot of beauty brands are struggling in trying to find that perfect formula. So it'll be an interesting discussion, very valuable. So for folks that want to learn about Amazon, want to elevate or just be a better cross-functional partner, it'll be next month, August 27th at 12 p.m. PST, and we'll see you then.
Perfect. Now, Debbie, we are about to go into our traditional last-minute questions, the questions that we ask in every show. But if anybody does have any questions for Michelle that they want to put in the chat right now, please do so, and I'll endeavor to bring them up before we end.
So one of the questions, Michelle, that is a consistent one for me on this show is understanding hiring managers and the attributes they look for. I could try to have as much exposure for professionals on the other side of hiring because I find that there's a lot of confusion sometimes on how to present yourself. So I'd love to hear your perspective on what are attributes when you have hired that you look for.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, actually. I actually just read an article this morning that came out from the Business of Fashion about how to get hired in the age of AI, right? So, and as you see it, Debbie, you probably see everyone's resume looks perfect now. Everyone has those, standard answers that they run through AI and can easily answer. So how do you as a hiring manager kind of, find out about the real person and ask them real questions? And I think the questions that I've been asking over time are becoming more important. So I always look at, I love to talk about curiosity, adaptability, executive presence. I like to probe on that and to gain examples there, as well as integrity. So, curiosity, everyone needs to understand kind of their business and the technical skills of their business, but how curious are you about the consumer and about the industry, and what types of questions are you asking? Have you seen the latest campaign from, your competitor or from someone else in the industry? So that helps me get a sense for, how hungry is this person for this particular role or this particular job. And then I look for adaptability, and I think adaptability is becoming even more important. And that's what actually this article talked about today. But if you're resistant to change, or you're not willing to kind of change and continue to learn, then that's kind of a red flag, right? You have to be able to be adaptable and constantly questioning things in a respectful way, but being willing to adapt as you grow. And then executive presence has always been very, important for me when I'm hiring, because I think you might not have all the answers, but how do you present yourself? How do you confidently convince an audience of something? How do you rally a group around your vision, right? So how do you get that executive presence? Because that's so important in terms of overall leadership today. And we actually teach that at SCAD as well. We have an amazing SCAD AMP group that teaches, really how to create both verbal and visual presentations and how to command a room. So I think if you have that executive presence, that's something that I like to ask for and kind of, probe on. And then I think integrity is great. And I think integrity, really trying to understand if the person is going to really put the team and the overall vision before their own interest, and how that would play into kind of their leadership style and their humility. So I always try to probe on integrity as well.
Wonderful. No, I think that those are all great and very valid for today's workforce.
Perfect. Okay, so we have come to the last question now, Michelle, which is one we ask everybody. People who have been watching this, who are thinking, I want to develop in my career, I want to move forward, and perhaps SCAD is the route, perhaps they take another thing. For somebody who wants to do that, what would you say is the first thing that they should do before making any other kind of decision?
Well, I think they should do a lot of introspection on their current path and what they've learned so far, and then kind of know what their vision is, right? Like, know what would they like to be. They have to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, you're not going to know how to get there. So I think you need to map out what your vision is and where you'd like to be, even if it might seem unattainable versus where you are today in your current career. And then once you map out that vision, then you can put together a path to help you achieve that, whether it's talking to people who can help you achieve that particular goal, or getting into the right program, or getting the right skills. But you kind of have to know where you want to go, and that's going to require that introspection and that kind of reflection and that space to really think about what your what your interests are and what you can contribute. So I think really knowing kind of or writing down on a piece of paper what that vision is for you, even if you are not sure you can achieve it yet, that will help you kind of set those goals.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So a quick recap on my takeaways, Michelle, and thank you for such a fantastic discussion. I think for beauty professionals that are in a place where they want to dabble in AI, I think that there's definitely courses here that are going to give them exposure, but also set the boundaries of where AI should play into the work, because AI should complement and not do the work for you. I think for leaders who really want to take their leadership to another level, maybe not for first-time hiring managers, learn trial by error, investing in leadership, I think is one that's invaluable, quite frankly. And just the specialized programs, working on C-level searches, for first-time GMs, first-time CEOs, there's always going to be a discipline that they're not an expert in. And so being able to be exposed to supply chain or commercialization is just going to give them an upper hand to speak to it and to be able to fill that gap during the interview process. So much value there. Thank you, Michelle, for joining today. And for those who tuned in, I hope you find value in this conversation. And as always, keep investing in yourself. Have a great day.